I'm Andrea. I am hijacking Eden's roundtable a little bit today. This is always such a fun group to get together with. So thank you, Eden. But I wanted to help do some introductions to our guest speaker and the guest topic that we'll be covering in the roundtable today. But I don't know, Eden, do you have your usual routine to get things kicked off that I better make sure we cover all our usuals?
Just to don't forget to open up your chat. Today's chat question, I don't know, I didn't think of one. Um, but as usual, we want you to listen intently, listen with purpose, think about what's being said and how you can take it back to your support group. And yes, as always, if you want, you can put down where you're located in the chat. So right now we're in Tampa, Florida, which is a little concerning. So, yeah, but that's okay. So tell us where you're coming from. And also, if you would like to change up rename yourself, if you want to put what your relationship is with support groups, if you're like, I'm a social worker, if you're a care partner and that's how you came by support groups. Oh, Maria's in sunny San Diego. Naomi's in Monterey Peninsula. But if you also just want to add that, you just click on the three dots and click on rename, and that is how you can just change it up if you're a support group leader, depending on how you do it. I know we have some social workers. I know we've got some care partners. I know we've got some adult children. Calissa's got Appleton, Wisconsin, and the fall colors are in full swing. So she knows I'm going to say that either she can send me pictures or it didn't happen. We've got Karen in Baskin Ridge, New Jersey. Hey, Karen. So thank you. And now I'm going to turn it over to Marie.
Then I'm going to dive in. Thank you all so much for your patience. My name is Marie Farrell. I'm the Senior Director for Commercial Services with Acadia Pharmaceuticals. I'm excited to be meeting with you virtually today, but more than that, I'm excited to be joining you in person in Austin on November 21st. Today and in November, I get to share with you a very cool new Acadia initiative featuring what may be a familiar face. So you may have seen actor and entrepreneur Ryan Reynolds in the news lately, talking about his family's experiences with Parkinson's disease and his father's related hallucinations and delusions. Ryan has partnered with Acadia on a national disease awareness campaign that aims to educate and drive conversations about recognizing and managing non-motor symptoms of Parkinson's, including hallucinations and delusions. The campaign is anchored by a series of video stories shared by Ryan and his mom, Tammy, as they talk about their personal experiences as loved ones and caregivers to Ryan's dad. The videos span a wide range of topics, focusing on Parkinson's-related hallucinations and delusions, covering who is at risk, what symptoms may look like, how to discuss symptoms and treatment options with a doctor, and more. The campaign features 6 video chapters for a total of about 25 minutes of content. All of the chapters are available at moretoparkinsons.com. So if you want to get an early preview, you can find all of that content there. And right now I'm going to share a really brief preview of the video series with you.
About 10 years ago, 2 things happened that changed my life. The first is that Deadpool got greenlit, but at exactly the same time, we lost my father to Parkinson's disease.
Jim was a good dad.
I would definitely call him a present father. Never missed a football game. I think a complicated man. My dad was a bit of a mystery to me. Basically, you sort of know what to expect from Parkinson's physically, but no one warned us about the hallucinations and the delusions. Around 50% of people with Parkinson's endure this at some point. You began thinking strange things about family and our motives, and there was just no way to talk about some of these things.
Jim came home from a trip, and he was convinced I'd been in the car with him, but I was not in the car. He couldn't get it out of his head. It was brutal on him and on me and the boys.
We were super worried about my mom because when your world is orbiting around somebody who is experiencing this, you feel incredibly helpless and I imagine alone.
Yeah, and you're not just losing your partner, but you also start to lose yourself. But today, there's more help than ever, thank God.
I would have loved to have had the option to help my dad see reality a little bit more clearly. So my advice would be to visit moretoparkinsons.com. You can learn how to recognize and talk about Parkinson's related hallucinations and delusions, and a lot of other stuff that I think families might find helpful.
So that's just a quick preview of what ultimately is about 25 minutes worth of video content. I encourage you to visit moretoparkinsons.com to watch the entire series. It's very personal. It's a very compelling look at an aspect of Parkinson's disease that isn't often discussed. In Austin, Acadia will be introducing a brand new resource related to the More to Parkinson's campaign and very specific to the audience that will be gathering in Texas. We are developing a More to Parkinson's discussion guide specifically for support group leaders. So this resource is designed to support you in leveraging the Ryan Reynolds family story to lead discussions about PD-related hallucinations and delusions in your own community. You can share the 6 video chapters with Ryan and his mom in your meeting or ask your attendees to watch them ahead of time. Then use our support group leader discussion guide, which will be rolled out for the first time ever at the November meeting. With this discussion guide, we'll walk you through how to invite members to share their personal experiences with hallucinations and delusions. You'll help to educate them on PD-related hallucinations and delusions. And you'll share the importance of addressing PD-related hallucinations and delusions as early as possible. Finally, we will be sharing with you hard copies of the More to Parkinson's Family Conversation Guide, which is a takeaway that you can share with each member of your support group that is chock full of helpful information and resources for people living with Parkinson's disease and for their families. So the information included in that resource include how to identify hallucinations and delusions, how family members can support someone who's experiencing hallucinations and delusions, why it's important to talk about hallucinations and delusions with family and friends, and how to have a productive conversation with your doctor about these symptoms. As support group leaders, you have a unique opportunity to help your community better understand and address these symptoms. It's really, you are the leaders of your communities, and really we think this is an incredible opportunity to raise awareness of these symptoms that probably don't get as much attention as they should, given their prevalence. So at Acadia, we're excited to join forces with Ryan Reynolds and with all of you, and to officially kick this work off together in November. So I am looking forward to seeing you there. We've got some work to do on our guide between now and then to get it ready for launch, but we will be there with bells on come November.
Thank you so much, Marie. But more than anything, we appreciate you bringing light to this topic, because this and like mood, people don't want to talk about. It's uncomfortable, and I think people almost look at it as like a character flaw. Like oh, someone's going to think I'm crazy, and it's like, no, you're not. And so I appreciate that you're normalizing this, you're bringing it to the forefront, you're making it a conversation, because it happens. And I know it's probably one of the things that for care partners is so difficult, when it's like, my loved one thinks I'm trying to kill them, I'm trying to poison them, I'm cheating on them, because then it also becomes like, why would this person think I'm cheating? We've been together for so long. And so I just think it's wonderful that you're saying, like, let's have this conversation, because yeah, it happens, and it's really hard when it does.
Absolutely. We're so excited to be shining light on this. We know that up to 50% of people who have Parkinson's disease will at one point experience hallucinations and delusions. That's a substantial number. We also know that people are extremely reluctant to talk about this, even with their doctor, for those reasons of stigma that you mentioned. So we think if we can help connect the thread that this is as much of a symptom of Parkinson's disease as any of the motor symptoms that families are managing, and that there are things you can do to minimize the impact, that is such a valuable conversation to have, and it can really go a long way to improving in particular, the relationships between people living with PD and their loved ones, and everyone feeling like they are experiencing the same thing, sort of operating in the same reality. That really goes a long way to maintaining that connection and maintaining a supportive relationship with your loved ones.
We do have a question. Are there going to be different guides for people with Parkinson's and like their care partners? So something for people with Parkinson's versus their care partners?
At this point, everything we have is dual purpose for people living with Parkinson's and their loved ones. And in some ways, I think that's actually really important. Again, destigmatizing what's happening here, that we all have access to the same information, that we all have the same understanding of what's going on and how we can address it. I think that can be productive.
Any other questions while we have Marie with us?
Am I best friends with Ryan Reynolds?
I think
Not
of him as
yet.
my boyfriend, so
But I believe there's still time.
He seems like a really fun guy. So I mean, to me, I'm like, even if you just get to hang out with him for 5 minutes, I'd be very jealous.
Yeah.
Well, we are excited for All In, so we'll get to see you in person next month.
Fantastic.
But many symptoms are tricks of the trade. And does this is there something for hallucinations or delusions that you kind of recommend? Greg was asking. Many symptoms, they do have things that you can do to improve them. Is there something for delusions?
Definitely. There are pharmaceutical treatments. Acadia makes one that is specifically to address hallucinations and delusions. But there's also a lot to be said about how do you support someone in the moment, someone who's not coming from a place of reality. It's not always productive to tell someone, no, what you're seeing isn't real. You think there's a small person in the corner of the room. Telling them, no, that person doesn't exist isn't always the kindest, most helpful thing in the moment. And so sometimes finding ways to comfort someone with the experience they're having that is so real, and in some cases is really frightening, helping them to solve that in the moment can be the most productive thing. And then in a calmer time, when we're not feeling escalated or frightened, starting to talk about, hey, what you've experienced may have been hallucinations and delusions. And it's really important for us to speak with your doctor about it, because there are things we can do to reduce the frequency and in many cases eliminate them altogether.
And one thing pointed out, we always hear you live with PD and die with PD, but you don't die from it. And Ryan said he lost his dad to Parkinson's. Does he mean like because so much was going on that he's like, my dad just wasn't the same and I feel like I lost him to Parkinson's? Or
I think so, yes. When you watch the full 25 minutes of the video vignettes, you really get a sense of the distance that was created between Ryan's dad and his family because he wasn't engaging with the same reality that everybody else was. And so Ryan talks about some really difficult conversations. In hindsight, he wishes he would have had an opportunity to talk to his dad about his physical changes, about what he was going through. But because of his hallucinations and his delusions, they just weren't able to have those kinds of heart-to-heart conversations.
and that kind of is really what ambiguous loss is, where it's like this person is still physically present, but emotionally it's not the same. There has been a change. Do any of the Parkinson's prescriptions cause or strengthen symptoms of delusions and hallucinations?
That's a great question. That's something really important to talk with your doctor about. I can tell you that Acadia's product has no impact on motor symptoms. And so our product is called Nuplazid. And it's a really important thing to evaluate when you talk to a doctor about potential treatments. Understand, will this have any interactions with other medications that you're taking? And will it have any impact on your motor symptoms of Parkinson's disease?
Okay. And we did put a quick overview Nuplazid video as well as the link in the chat. So as always, we encourage everyone to save their chats. Does anyone have any other questions before we move into our breakout rooms? Yes, Elpidio?
Good morning. I just wanted to thank you for coordinating with Ryan Reynolds and just getting a major person like that to enlighten the Parkinson's. And, you know, with the federal government's passage of Parkinson's Act and Ryan Reynolds, and I just learned that Brett Favre was also diagnosed with Parkinson's. You know, you guys have a voice and actors have an influence, and just the fact that it gives people more aware, and hopefully the funding for Parkinson's to help more people that who are underprivileged, who can't afford $1,800 a month medication, and they have to get something else that's not applicable, can definitely get the support of the federal government and other people to fund more for Parkinson's research, as well as fund more for the medication, so people who can't afford it can get some type of help for it. So really appreciate you guys stepping forward and getting a major actor like that to be behind the wheel of the Parkinson's for the future.
Thank you for that. It really does feel like Parkinson's is having a moment. If you're not living under a rock, you're reading about Parkinson's in the news, you're hearing people talking about it. People are talking about it in a more robust way. And I think that can only be positive for the Parkinson's community in the long term. Well, thank you all so much for the time today. You were so kind to invite me in, and I will be very excited to meet you in person in Austin.
Thanks for joining us, Marie. I did also put in the chat, because you mentioned medication assistance. Most of the brand name companies offer medication assistance, so I put our website in the chat. So you have the drug makers that provide bridges to access programs, as well as things like RX Assist and Needy Meds. So we encourage that as well. Marie, thank you so much for being here, for sharing everything with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day. And those of you in the Southeast, stay safe, stay home, stay dry. Take care. Bye-bye.
So now we're going to do our breakout rooms. And as I mentioned, this really is a topic that sometimes people shy away from because, you know, you guys can talk about constipation all the time and you don't think anything of it. But when we start talking about mood, you know, anxiety, depression, or we start talking about cognition, people start to get a little uncomfortable because, you know, I always say, I'm like, you know, if depression were treated like diabetes, nobody would ever say, how come your pancreas just doesn't work correctly? And why don't you just think happy thoughts about insulin and everything will be fine? That's not what we do. But when it comes to depression, we get a little like, oh, it's a little something we don't talk about. Or when someone's cognition is, you know, you notice there's a problem, but you don't want to comment on it. So our chat today is going to be, what are you doing in your group to talk about mood and cognition? Are you having neuropsychologists come? Are you having social workers come? Are you having, you know, your nurse practitioners or physician, or who's coming to talk about these things? Because especially if you've got a care partner group, these are problems. These are definitely things that they're dealing with. And I appreciate Marie touching on the fact that, you know, you do want to de-escalate the situation. Arguing with somebody that there's no child in that corner isn't really going to get what you need, versus saying, you know, well, why don't you invite the child to come in and maybe have some cookies? And maybe that could kind of like make the, you know, diffuse the situation a little bit. So I kind of want to talk about what are you doing in your group to talk about mood and cognition. That's just a suggestion. If you guys go someplace else in your groups, I understand completely. Kelly's going to put you in your breakout rooms. We're going to give you about, oh, don't make me do math. We'll come back at about 10 after. So however long that is, that's what we're going to give you. And you don't need to do anything. Kelly's just going to put you in your groups. Hope you had some incredible discussions in your breakout rooms. I'm going to start with room 1 with Dave Rivera, Debbie, Greg, Jay, Karen Williams, and Naomi, who'd like to come off mute and share with us.
Well, I'm going to start and give it a whirl, and then we're going to do it as a team approach, because teams, if you want to go quick, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go with a group. So we talked about a variety of different things. Probably first and foremost is just the stigma that's so often associated with Parkinson's. You know, we with Parkinson's, we wish we had a map. We wish we had, do A, then B, then C, then D, and you're going to get through life. When in reality, just about the time you get A or B under control, here comes L. Mm-hmm. And then, oh no, it jumped back to K, and you have all these different things going on, especially I think we talked a little bit about the executive function of thinking. Boy, that's the one I hate the most. You go, I know I can think my way out of this. I know I have the experience. I know I have the wisdom to do this, but what am I? I can't remember the first thing I'm supposed to do. That is so frustrating. We also talked about how our culture, oftentimes, Debbie is in Israel, so we had kind of an international flair there. But we talked about how our culture in America, if something drops and breaks, then we throw it away because it's no good. And we tend to carry that same philosophy over to our lives with Parkinson's. I am not nearly the athlete I once was, but who cares? But I do. So I get on myself about it. Mm-hmm. So the Japanese have a philosophy called kintsugi, where
yes,
if you have a plate.
That's exactly what it's called.
Yeah. It's what?
It is called that, and it's where they use gold to put it back together, and you're prettier than when you started.
Yeah. So if you drop a plate and it breaks into 3 pieces, well, you put gold powder into a lacquer and you re-put the plate together. And in Japanese society, it is a great honor to be served something in a kintsugi bowl or a kintsugi plate.
And it's stronger.
Yeah, and it tends to be stronger. And more importantly, they tend to look at the value of an object, not just right now, here, in this time, but over the lifespan of the object. Hey, did it serve its purpose? And we thought that that's one of the real keys that we've got to do, that with Parkinson's, we have to fight the trend of the asocialness of Parkinson's, and instead focus on what can we do? How can we help other people out? How can we show our children and our grandchildren, this is what you do when a disease like Parkinson's enters your life? Actually, I would say that, in any of my other little Group 1 compatriots can chime in, but that's probably the deepest conversation I've ever had with a group in this type of setting. I mean, we were talking about very deep personal things as opposed to, oh yeah, I used to have constipation, but then I started eating raisins and I don't, or whatever the hell the story is. Sorry.
I was
So,
going to add to what he just said. Um, with the bowl, I was saying that all of us, it's like we're broken. We all have
yeah,
different things that need fixing, things not moving right. But then with the gold, like in your veins going through that and putting everything together just makes you more resilient, more stronger. So it's kind of symbolic too.
yes, oh, absolutely. And I think that's really the key. And we talked about one other thing, and then I'll let the rest of the group say whatever they'd like. That is, if you write the phrase "opportunity is nowhere" on a piece of paper in front of you, but if you realize uniquely as humans, we can pause between stimulus and response. We can choose how we want to respond to any stimuli. If you put a space between the W and the H in nowhere, what does that now spell? It's the same language, it's the same letters in the exact same order.
It says now
The
here.
difference is that now you believe in your heart that you have the opportunity to still live a vibrant life, a life that thrives.
Thank you, Greg. Anybody else from room 1 wants to chime in? We're all better together. Okay. We're gonna then go on to room 2. We've got Andrea, we have Corey, we have Elpidio and Naomi, and we have Randy. Who wants to come off mute? I know this isn't a shy room. Don't make me start calling people. Elpidio, you're off mute. Do you want to tell us about what was discussed?
We discussed basically a lot of things in terms of sometimes we have very difficult people within the meetings, and we as the people who are running the meeting have a responsibility and to basically either take them off, mute them, talk to them one-on-one. Hey, you can't be coming in here, and it's a hard job for us as care leaders, as running the meetings, but we have to do it. If you get an abrasive person who is wanting to, we concluded that you got to do what you got to do to save, the meeting, as well as be aware of the other people who are in the meeting. Because what oftentimes, and we had one example that some people left the meeting because of this one particular person. So I think anytime when we have that type of person, we can make sure that we have the responsibility to delete them or just talk to them one-on-one. Like, hey, John, you're being, unfortunately taking a lot of time, and we want to have our other members be part of this meeting, and we want to hear from other members, and just kind of be abrupt. And and sometimes everybody wants to play nice in the sandbox, but sometimes people get sand and throw it on our faces, and we have to just being able to, we're all volunteers, right? It's hard to fire a volunteer organization. So I think it's so key. And I think that's one thing that we got away from. We also talked about the importance also having social workers come in and talk about a hard topic, because I think and I know Naomi and I have dealt with people who have been depressed with Parkinson's and just kind of isolate themselves. And so maybe as a support group leaders is maybe we could bring somebody who discusses, a psychiatrist, social worker, who can just come and talk about, the if need the, because they're the professional, they see people all the time, and the importance of dealing with depression, et cetera, and just to be able to give out their card So when that person, the PD, or even the person, the care partner, can chime in and say, you know what, this person came to our meeting, let's give them a call. And so I think anytime when you can deflect and have a professional come in there and help deal with the different people within that organization, it's a really big help. I'd also, just in closing, I'd like to make one announcement. The person sitting next to me, Naomi, was just chosen as one of the ambassadors for the World Parkinson's Congress. One of 15 global ambassadors that the WPC has chosen. So I wanted to, and maybe Naomi, you can speak to that.
Well, it's really exciting, and I'm honored to do it. So I'm hoping that all of you are there, that we see all of you and all the people in your communities.
Well, it's in Phoenix, so it's a lot more less difficult to travel this year.
Yeah,
Versus,
yeah.
Congratulations.
May 24th to 26th, 2026.
Yeah.
That's going to be wonderful.
That's really great.
Thank you.
That's so wonderful.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Or as we say in Israel, mazel tov.
Mazel tov.
Yeah. Who has here has been, if you've been to the World WPC, please raise your hand.
Well, I think we met Deb at
Yes.
the Kyoto one.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I would empower you, people who've never been, and support group leaders, is just by going to the WPC, it helps both the care partner and I think the person who has PD really get a chance to look at a global picture of what Parkinson's is about. I tell people in our group, it gives you a lens that you are not alone, that there are people around the world working 24/7 on helping find a cure for Parkinson's. And you will find people from different neurologists from different parts of the world who are coming to Phoenix, and you're going to be able to shake their hands, talk to the neurologists, the top neurologists in the world, the researchers, the people who run meetings, the support group leaders. And it gives you a sense of, wow, I'm just not the only person who runs this group. It gives you phenomenal depth and getting to know other people within the global community for Parkinson's. So if you could make it
energy.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I will just
5,000 people to come to Phoenix in May 2026.
I was the first one that I went to was in Oregon,
2016.
Right. So I got a scholarship to go to that one because I was writing a series of articles in a magazine called Living with Parkinson's, and it developed made huge changes in the community. And it empowered me so much, it inspired me so much that I actually organized a whole organization in Israel for people with Parkinson's, and it's become like a very big organization here. So and it's all because of the conference.
That's wonderful.
I was just so inspired.
I jumped out of the room, but I think I missed part of the conversation.
Talking about WPC.
Yeah, I'm an ambassador as well. From 2026. My first one was Barcelona, and it made a huge difference to my husband and I. Our relationship changed a lot, and he was deemed Mr. Laurie after that.
She's being respectful. He was always Mr. Laurie, but we'll say it was after WPC.
I was going to use it in Austin, but he's like, please don't do that in the bio. And I'm like, okay, but when you get there, that's what you are. He's like, I know once I get there, that's like that, but you have to put it in writing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it might have been on his name tag already, but
that's all right. They'll run with it. He's not, So anyway, but
wonderful.
I was getting something off the printer because I was going to forget if I didn't get it. So
no problem. Let's move on to room 3. Dave Orlowski, Gail, and Lori, who'd like to come off mute and share what you guys discussed.
All right, Dave, we're doing this both together, so come off mute. So if I miss anything. Because Gail is driving, so she left. Like she was kind of in and out, and then the other person that was there. So it was just the two of us for a little while, 3 of us. But we talked about that. We talked about a lot of things actually, because it was just such a small group. We kind of ran out of steam with just what we were supposed to talk about. One thing we talked about is there's something called Jumpstart that somebody has, where you as a support group can give information packets to newly diagnosed people. That's information that's actually relevant. And then the other thing is, if you have a support group, what do you do when you send 100 emails but only 20 people come? Like, and do you do an unsubscribe to my email, or do you say, please respond to this email, and you take a risk of losing people? Communication. We talked a lot about communication because that's what I'm talking about in Texas. So we started jumping onto that. And what else, Dave?
You're doing a good job so
Okay.
far.
What was Dave had a question we first started and we had to look it up, is hallucinations the same as psychosis?
Interesting.
And what is the definition of psychosis?
Right. And Google determined that hallucinations are part of the psychosis of Parkinson's. And then we said hallucinations can be positive. They're not always a negative thing. Like, it might be nice to talk to that cat and just talk to the cat. It's okay. The cat may be a comforting thing in that person's life. And then some of them can also be a side effect of medication. They're not necessarily a symptom. And that was it. I think that's all I got. That's all we got.
I actually did know a woman when, and she said to the nurse practitioner, she was telling her about the cat, and she said, because Terry, the nurse practitioner, said, well, we can take care of that. And she said, you're going to take my pet away? And so we kept the cat in place. But then a few years go by and she has to move in with her daughter. And apparently at that point, the kitty started misbehaving and peeing on all the beds. And the daughter says, the cat's got to go because I can't keep washing laundry when it's like, there's no cat pee, but she's making me wash all the sheets. So,
I thought it was her peeing on things, saying it was the cat, but there was no pee at all.
Yeah, there was no pee at all.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like, but she's saying like, well, the cat peed on the sheets, you have to wash them. And she's just like, there's no cat. Like, she's like, we could, the cat was being cute, it was fine. But she said, once the cat started misbehaving, the cat had to go.
That's funny. Just like in real life, once it becomes
yeah, once it's a problem, we need to take care of it.
Interesting.
But that's a big thing. I think goes in with like communication. You don't want to tell anybody. Like, who wants to admit that to like your husband or your wife? Like, yeah, you're married to a crazy person. Like, that's kind of how you feel. I mean, you're not, but but that's what you feel like everybody thinks.
Or for you, you're like, I really do believe this is happening. I mean,
Right.
sometimes it really is like she had awareness that she's like, I know the cat's not real. Or there was one gentleman and he would see alligators, which were in Florida. So that was kind of a big deal. But he learned to figure out that the gators that he was seeing never had feet. So he would kind of, when he saw one, it was like he would still startle a little bit, but then he was like, look, is there feet? And if it was just kind of hovering, then he was like, this isn't real. And he still kind of could keep that awareness about him as opposed to running off and like, oh no, there's a gator on the loose. So
hallucinations don't necessarily mean dementia.
Because sometimes they are a side effect of the medication.
And sometimes people know they're having a hallucination. It's just there.
Yeah.
I was going to add something to the hallucinations. I shared it with my room, with room 1, but I have a friend that was taking amantadine, and then a side effect was hallucinations, but they were tactile. So she was feeling things that were, and then she told her doctor, and her doctor stopped her immediately on that.
I was on amantadine. I saw like little things are moving. I'm like, I know that spot on the rug is not moving, but to my eyeballs, to me, it's moving. So but I never had the tactile thing.
Wow.
Yeah. So
as always, I thank everybody for sharing. We did put several links in the chat, so I do encourage everyone, if you see the 3 dots that are now at the top, they say more of your chat. You can save your chat that way because we did put in several links, including Kelly actually just added one. Get your group members the help they need with our new InSync referral guide. I put in a link for the medication resources on our PMD website. Kelly put in for Acadia Connect, and then she also put in something for New Plaza, and then we both put in for the foundation. I forgot the Parkinson's disease, more to parkinsons.com. So I really encourage you to share your chat so you have all of these links easily accessible. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. We do have a few programs coming up this week on NLO, so hopefully I will see you there. And I hope everybody has a great rest of your week. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.